Welcome everybody to the second instalment of Under the Microscope. We're going to be looking at out of possession today with a focus around the high press. Delighted to have Paul McGuinness with us again to talk through this. Looking forward to it. Obviously, it was really interesting the feedback from the first webinar that we did, and particularly the detail that you went into. So, as I said, the focus for us today will be around out of possession, and obviously it links into the high press module that all you guys are going to be on moving towards over the next couple of weeks. Just to sort of emphasize really then what the session aims are, and it's pretty similar to what we talked about on block one. As you know, the whole focus around under the microscope is helping you develop and utilizing your observational skills and fine-tuning that lens, how you look at the game. What we want to try and do is further interrogate the game using the quadrant tool. But obviously this time around, as opposed to looking at in possession, we're going to be looking out of possession. And we'll recap on those key factors that Paul introduced to you last time, but also how those key factors are the same for out of possession, and how we apply the quadrant tool again to match observations. And I suppose the hard work and everything else you've done following on block one is how you're now starting to analyze and break the game down and starting to look at the specifics around the individual unit and the team. So welcome, Paul. Great to have you on board. Good. I want to just talk through and remind everyone about the sort of the model that you presented last time round.
Yeah, I think it was very much taking the game as a whole, the 11v11 game, and then zooming in using a different lens under the microscope, sort of zooming in to have a look, but also within that microscope, depending on where the players were, to look, using a quadrant idea to say, well, whereabouts in that under that microscope, under that space, are the attacker and defender. And here now we're flipping it, so we're looking at the defensive positions. Where do they mark? Where do they challenge? Where do they recover to? What are the movements against the defender, against the attacker in that circle? Yeah,
brilliant. Okay. Next one, we talked about this last time, didn't we? About looking at the key factors, but the focus around before, during, and after, how important that is.
Yeah, I think so. And I think when we see some of the clips we look at, you see how the game is constantly moving. Every time the ball moves, then the defensive position probably changes. And so it's before the ball coming, it's during the action of it, and then after someone may have played the ball on, where's your next defensive position going to be? So it's vital to look at all those phases, and you have to sort of zoom in off the ball to what the positions might be near the ball, might be on the ball, might be near the ball, or further away from the ball, that you really have to look at. And it is a case of looking at the nearest opponent, but it may well be that there's more than one opponent they have to look at. It's not necessarily a 1 versus 1 idea. Sometimes you're looking after 2 people, you're doing 1.5 jobs.
Yeah, and it's that priority order as well that you do that in as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And this can change sometimes depending on the context of the game. Are you pressing for a result, in which case you might want to be pushing on and be tighter, or you're sitting back holding your position. There's all sorts of things that can come into it. It might well be, as we saw in the first block, the context of, well, what type of player you're playing against. Is it a player you should get really tight to, or is it a player you should sit off a little bit more? Who are the other players around you? Who are you playing with, and what the relationships between those players as well.
Yeah. And it's and the whole purpose of this is to provide this framework, isn't it, for the coaches to work from and help them, both in terms of their observations, but also that when they're planning and delivering practice.
Yeah, exactly. And in essence, this is something you want the players to recognise instantly on the pitch. How close should I be to the wide man? Should I be tucked in a little bit more? Where's the ball going to go next? How do I adjust my position? What's my body position going to be? Does it need to be left foot forward or right foot? All these sort of things slowly over time you're guiding the players so that they can self-correct, within the game as well.
Yeah, absolutely vital. That brilliant, good job. So, I mean, one of the things that we're going to obviously look at now, and a question to you guys who are obviously watching this is these are the considerations around what the challenges the game presents you in the out possession phase, and particularly in terms of high pressing. And what does it look like in your context? So, Paul, you had a look at this the other day and have come up with sort of like a list to help the learners. Do you want to run through that with us now?
Yeah, sure, exactly. I mean, what are we looking for in the high press? Probably win the ball back high up there. So how do we do that? There'll be all sorts of considerations, but basically we want to get the ball in a position where we can pressurize the defense and win it back. And so I've highlighted, say, that little duel there in midfield. You see maybe the forward player is forcing the play wide and down that side. So now what would be the considerations? What would the attacker, the defender, be thinking about now in terms of the positional play relative to their midfield player? Where would they want to stand in order to win the ball back? And so if we go on to the first point, they're looking to see if that player maybe gets their ball. If that the opponent gets it, are they ready to press? Now it might well be, being cunning. They could have body language where they're not looking as if they're ready to go, but they're just looking out the corner of their eye. And it might be a chance to, depending on the weight of the pass, it might be a chance to intercept, or if not, it might be a chance as you get there after first touch to dispossess the player, or if they do get a touch to maybe spoil, knock the ball away, tow it away to one of your forwards. Then it might be just a case of holding, containing, stopping them playing. So all those things would come into transferring from being the position off the ball to being on the ball. How do we mark the guy and how do we defend on the ball in those senses? Yeah, and then the next job, a key job, would be blocking a passing lane. So you see the forward player in this example is blocking the forward lane back inside, which then makes it easier for the defenders behind him to anticipate. So as well as doing the job of being able to get tight enough to mark and stop their own player turning and playing forward, the midfield player here, the black midfield player is ready to block a passing lane, maybe intercept a pass and stop a ball into the striker.
I suppose it's important there now, as you said, you talked about the striker's positioning to block that passing lane off into the midfield player, but also the support of the second midfield player to their distance, but also be in a position so they're sort of doing a job and a half, aren't they? They're sort of marking and supporting at the same time, marking the space, preparing to press, but also supporting the midfield player.
That's right. They're in a position where they can sort of cover all eventualities, but obviously they're calculating by looking at the situation that's being closed down, the body language of the defender on the ball, where the ball might go next. They're anticipating, they're scanning. And anticipation, I think, is a big part of what we're looking at here. It could be any of these, but they're looking for that moment to maybe stop the press, block the passing lane, or in the next instance, cover maybe another player.
Okay.
So say for instance here, ball got played past our wide player, and the fullback was coming forward. Then it might be the job of the midfield player to come over and cover. That might be one job, or it might well be that the winger jumps forward to press the centre back to double up there, and then the midfield player may jump over, and sort of everybody jumps over to take the position. So that could be any of the players on here having these sort of roles. Could be the centre back. If the fullback goes over, then the centre back might jump over and cover their opponent. Everybody covers round and fills in. Yeah, and again, an important role is if the ball goes behind you, obviously, how quick do you sprint back? You might sprint back to cover for danger, but you also might have the opportunity here to back tackle a loose pass, a ball that bounces off the striker. So back tackling in midfield, or it might be a forward player back tackling on a midfield player. Could well happen to win the ball back. And again, once they're doing that, while they're doing, they would be scanning all these opportunities to win it, but always with an eye on, well, where's the forward pass? I might be able to intercept and play with a first-time pass, or to win it back quickly and play a pass off. Or it might well be that they've won the ball back, they want to get it out of the tackle area, they play back first, maybe to a centre-back who can change the play. So they're scanning ahead. Might not just always be forward, be scanning for the next pass if they win it back to get it away from that tackle area.
Last time, didn't we, about the importance of helping the players, both tactically, but also starting identifying these emerging patterns that are going on, having the ability to see things one or two steps in advance, which all the top players have got. They can see things happening 3 or 4 moves ahead of everyone else, kind of thing. So I suppose it's how we go about doing that and educate the players accordingly. Yeah,
exactly. And in the model we presented in the first block, we talked about, and this is a guide, obviously, key factors of positional play. So obviously the position within that circle there enables the possibility of winning the ball back or taking on a few different roles. But within that, you're always scanning. You're looking for the ball for your man, looking for danger all around you. So you'd be teaching the players that. And then it's the movement skills. Are they on the front foot? Is their body orientation right so they can sprint forward or back? Then we talked about deception. So it might well be that in this situation, the midfield player makes it look as though they're going to press their midfield player, but at the last second cuts back to cut off any pass to the forward. They sort of leave the space open, tempting that pass forward and then win it back. So deception would still come in. And of course, all of that is down to timing, the triggers of noticing body language, communication from their partners, and then the actual techniques. How do they actually win the ball back, get their body in front, take the ball? So they would be the key factors we looked at in the first block. But added to that, I didn't want to put too many things in, but sort of encompassed within all of that is your perception. Your perception, each time you move, and there's a new perception, and then action required. And from each action, you might then be perceive something else. In that sense, that defending in general is anticipation. You're anticipating by looking at the cues of your teammates, the triggers maybe from them, and looking at the opposition body language, the way the ball's bouncing, all looking for triggers for when to move. Yeah.
So the big question is then how we develop that, isn't it? How do you develop it in your players, the types of practices you put on, how do you educate the players, because if practice isn't right, then how do we help the players? We're saying this is actually a central part. So the question out there is what do you do in terms of your coaching?
Yeah, very much there. Of course, when there's a lot of players involved straight away, there's a lot of things to see to do. So quite often would be breaking it down into smaller numbers at first, but giving the right size of area, but making sure that whatever is happening is very much realistic and relevant to the game. Are you still getting the same cues? Are there similar distances? Are there the same type of angles and so on that you have to cover in that game or practice? The realism is absolutely vital. Yeah.
And something we talked about, I know came up in obviously discussions from the first block with a lot of the coaches that saw it, is that the circle there, the shape of the circle will change as well. So it won't be an exact circle. Sometimes it will be elongated. It will be a little bit narrower. So that isn't specifically a circle all the time. It changes, doesn't it? The shape.
No, it's a guide really, Bish, for people to just put an area around and say, where will you reach? Say, for instance, in this example, if it was the black right back and the forward player there, well, there would be a lot of space behind to be ready to cover as well. And that's where the goalkeeper's position would make a difference. Can the keeper help to cover that distance as well? But it's basically a guide and an outline to help say, well, what would be happening? Probably these 5 things are 5 of the predominant things that you'd be wanting to the jobs that you have to do to win the ball back. And then as the picture changes, it might be a bigger area you have to cover, or it might be really a tight area where it's 2 players really challenging for the ball in a tight area.
Yeah, and I think you made a good point there in terms of the focus here. So where the ball is, that's on the ball, and then you got around the ball, and then you got away from the ball, and quite rightly, not forgetting the role of the keeper in this. How the keeper's position is really important, how they defend the space behind the back line as well. So it is really important. So when you and when we want the coaches to start looking at this, is not just focusing on the ball, but also linking the individuals, the unit, and the team together. So on and around and away from the ball is really important. Brilliant. So I think we're moving to the next slide. Is some footage here, Paul. So should we play that?
Yeah, it's a good overview of what's coming up. Yeah.
So I suppose these are, if we look at this slide here, again, some considerations around it. What are the skills and attributes of your players required? To deal with the game challenges that are presented to them, and what are the characteristics of your players that you have working with you as well, and how that affects your style of play. I think that's a really important question to ask ourselves all the time about what you've got available in front of you, what the player's capabilities and characteristics, and then how does that sort of link into how you play, and in this case, how we defend, and then how we deal with the challenges the other teams present us. Do you want to talk through this, Paul, again, and just have it sort of like a reminder in terms of the
I think again, you know, you mentioned it there, the context, what were our players like? You know, how can we defend if we've not got a quick back four? How are we going to press up? You know, those type of things. So you've always got to be looking at the context to what are your players' strengths and weaknesses, and then adjust accordingly. But in each of those senses, you'll be looking, depending on how you try and play, on their positional strengths, on the position, you know, how are they going to position? And if you're looking at the individual again, how's he positioned against that player who's playing against, knowing his own strengths and weaknesses against theirs? You know, does he want to get tight and stop him starting and getting into his flow if he's a bit quicker than him? Is he able to, you know, in that sense, use his body against him, block him off? Or is he quick enough to be able to sit off a little bit and be able to beat him in a race? So all those sort of type of characteristics. Is he playing against someone who's really good at crossing the ball, so he needs to get tight, but he's not as quick? Thinking about all those things in context is vital, and how you will play your position. But again, in the defending, the positional play will be adjusting constantly. Is it the biggest priority to mark the man tightly, or is it to cover the space behind? You know, do I need to get in line with someone in a passing line, or do I need to go mark my man, or do I do a bit of both? And quite often in the clips you see coming up, people are doing a little bit of both before they see exactly what happens. And as the ball travels, then they'll make the decision: am I going tight to mark, or to stop that forward pass? Am I covering? Am I forcing someone one way? So all of those things vital. And these are key skills, you know, to understand, and they all really stem from scanning skills and from that perception. You know, what do you perceive? What's the body language of your opponents? Are they appearing like they're going to play a ball down the line? Are they going to play it back inside? Have you studied them already and seen their tendencies? What are they good at? Are they comfortable on the left side, their right side, and so on? And then of course your movement. I like the idea in all of this of it being a predator, who's cunning, who's looking for weaknesses, who's ready to go, and he's primed, but he's not chasing all over. He's ready on the mark to adjust position quickly, to maybe sprint but then stop is vital, and then change direction and transition as the ball changes direction. And then again, deception. We talked about that in terms of attacking, but in terms of defending, can be quite deceptive. Can you get out of the attacker's eye line? Don't let him feel you, because if he feels you, he knows where you are. You can give him a little nudge, you get tight and then drop off, so he doesn't know where you are, ready to feel inside. Do you make it look as though you're going to go mark someone, but then come back and intercept? All these little things, approaching them from the blind side where they're not really ready for you. It might be a striker who's dropping off, but out the corner of his eye is ready to go and turn and sprint. All these little deceptive moves. And then, timing, of course, is vital. Again, are you reading these cues and sensing the right time, the right triggers, the right signals? It might be a trigger, ball played backwards, a ball that's bouncing, ball that looks too heavy or played to someone's wrong foot. It might be the body language, someone who's receiving with their back to goal that you can get up and close down quickly enough. So all these signs will be triggers and signals. And there will be signals, and communication really is another key factor that we've not put on this list, but is inherent in it all, in the fact of the timing and the movement and the body language of your own teammates. Might be showing someone one way, so you now know to take a step to the right or left. And then the technical aspects, probably the physical technical aspects, but also the technical aspects of getting your body in the right position to challenge for the ball and to get a clean contact on it, to maybe hook it back and win it, or to play maybe a first time interception forward. Yeah, all vital.
I mean, we've talked about this before, and how important it is, and we've got some clips coming up in a minute now that we're going to talk, or you're going to sort of expand on a little bit more, but how important it is to look at what the top teams do and the top players do, as a model of good practice, and then use that to and bring that back into their own context, and start looking at what their players' capabilities are. You mentioned it at the start of this, how important the context is, and being clear about the characteristics of their players, what they've got, and how that shapes the way they play, and the style, and maybe the system that's employed as well.
Yeah, I think this is very much like you say, zooming in on the individual. See, how do the best players defend? How do the best ones do? Obviously, some will have different characteristics than others, but the best players, how do they get their body in the right position to win the ball back? How do they anticipate? What's their footwork like? How do they get over the ground and then slow down? How do they force people one way? All the things that come into good defending, good tackling, good challenging for the ball. Good positional play. Yeah, you're as a coach, this is part of the practice, to use this sort of little model to zoom in and get a model in your head for good play, and then be able to transfer the best parts of that to your players. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so we'll move on. We'll just come to the model here. Do you want to just remind everybody around this again? Because I think, obviously, from the first block, I think this was really good little tool in terms of that, and I think people have now starting to understand that you've got to start with the head and work your way down through the team. And I think you've talked a little bit on footwork and patterns and things like that, but is there anything to sort of add in terms of there that you want to add onto that model?
It's always the best defenders, the heads are on a swivel. We talked about attacking players, Xavi, 8 scans in 10 seconds. Well, the best defenders are constantly checking the situation, knowing where their opponent are, looking to the left, looking to the right. They've really got to see and know what's happening with the ball and the man or their opponent at the same time. So to do that, they must be checking quickly and running it in their head. Where are they? So that would be the key thing. But also your body position helps you with that. It's only a quarter turn if your body's half turned round. If your body's in the wrong position, it's a bigger turn, and so on. You obviously see people, often they say at the far post, they've not opened up to see the far post, but also the man at the far post. But also that helps your footwork. If you're able to run sideways, that's a lot quicker than running backwards. So, all these little tips really come out here. And again, this is just a checklist. This is for people, you're watching the games on TV, you're watching Match of the Day, you're watching the top games, and you're looking at what the top players do. And of course, you'll find mistakes they do as well. Normally, if there's a goal, there's maybe 1 or 2 mistakes in it, and that can help you too, spotting the mistakes. So you running in a mind your model, well, the footwork wasn't right there. The defender got caught square, and now they couldn't turn quick enough, and all these things start to come, and then you start to recognise them, all the time in your players as well.
Yeah, brilliant. So I suppose the next question is, what does this look like within the game? So we've got some clips here, haven't we, that we're going to sort of run through, and Paul, you're going to sort of expand and add something to it. And hopefully you guys, when you're watching this now, you'll start picking up on some of the detail that Paul's going into. What we won't do is cover everything, but there'll be a little bit of focus on some key things in here. But please have a look as we go through it, and see what you pick out as well.
Yeah, I think this was just an example. We took sort of freeze frame as well, where the first examples we showed before was probably the player off the ball. Here's an example of challenging on the ball, where we sort of use this quadrant. That's my rough sketch, but to say where would you be, where would you want your body within those quadrants in a duel. And now sometimes these duels might be jostling for position to receive a pass, so it's before the ball comes, or it might be marking tightly at a corner or so on. So you want to get your shoulder in front, or marking from general play tight in the box. So how do you where's the best place to get your body and try and get the advantage? Here we're looking at lines of force quite often as well. Do you get the advantage in terms of where are the lines of force? So this is a good example here. And we have the clip running later where Raheem Sterling comes and basically it's like pickpocketing the defender. He comes from his blind side and just sneaks into his quadrant, into the area, and sort of hooks the ball away. So if we go to the next slide, we see the sequence from one. He's coming, really, he doesn't know he's there. So that's the deception. He's what angle is he coming from behind him. And you can see he's now reaching out with his foot, starting to reach out. And now he sort of just tiptoes into and just stretches in and then pushes his body in number 2. That's what I'm saying. He's pickpocketing it. He gets his body in between number 3. Now he's stretched in. He's ready to hook the ball out, but his body's starting to move in. You see his lines of force versus the defender. I think it may be Gomez. Gomez is stood sort of straight. Now on number 4, he's starting to hook the ball and turn away, but get his body in between as a barrier. Number 5, he's using his arms. And now you can see by using his arm and pushing away, getting the balance, that the balance and the lines of force mean that Riga's sort of leaning back away from goal, but Sterling's starting to lean towards goal. And he starts to push off now in number 6. And number 7, now you see the distance has gone between them. And he's definitely got the advantage with the lines of force by pushing off on his left foot towards goal. And it's Gomez, I think, isn't it? He's still upright, not yet turned, not able to push off as Sterling really pushes away from him. So that would be a real skill I would be looking to work with players on and see if they can actually dispossess and pickpocket their opponent. So without, tackling and sliding in, now I think the new rules or the new interpretation of the laws over here, the way we're starting to catch up with everybody else, now you can't slide in from behind, but wow, being able to get your body in between and sort of think of that idea that you've stepped across into that quadrant to pull the ball away and got your body between, I think is a real skill for any player, but can be particularly useful for forwards. Yeah, attacking play.
We talked about it earlier on, didn't you, about the physical characteristics as well. So we talked about acceleration, deceleration, having the ability to be able to do that, but also we're talking about strength here as well, aren't we? We're looking at physical strength. He's got to get his body in front. He's steps in front, how he uses his upper body, his hips, his feet, and protects the ball at the same time as well. So as you said, it's not just the technique, but it's the physical strength as well of being able to do that.
All wrapped into game-like technique, your use of strengths, but in a technical sense. So you can do as much, in the gym as you like, but you need to have these techniques matched, and very much that's a functional technique, isn't it? A strength technique to be using against someone's body. The timing, speed at which he stepped in and then hooked it away, got his body between and rolled off, but also given a little handoff. Great bit of technical work that I don't think you can learn that unless you can't learn it, can you? Unless you're doing it against someone. You've got to practice live with opposition. Yeah,
without a doubt. Okay, so we're sort of moving into the clips now, aren't we? In a minute. So should we play these and then do you want to just talk through some key bits?
Now, just before we start, it's just to remind ourselves that quite often high press, very few people are going all the time man for man. And even if they do go man for man, the goalkeeper's there as an extra player. And quite often they'll go sort of one player underloaded and keep one player at the back. So that again is why two players have to transition quickly between, this is my man, but also this could be my man. They're changing. It's not just, this is my man. In a second, it becomes this guy, but also I'm doing two jobs because I might be cutting off the pass behind. So in this example here, we start off, and in a lot of the examples, you see the forward players, the two sort of wide forward players, they've got the job of trying to close down the centre backs, but also getting in line to cut off the line of the pass to the fullbacks, and that allows the central forward, I think it's Minamito, to close down and really cause a problem, closing first the centre back, then the goalkeeper, then back again, and we'll concentrate mainly on his movement, but the others would also be within that quadrant. The two strikers, watch them, how they close down a bit, but get in line with the wide man and prevent that pass there, as well as marking, and that allows the other players behind then to come into play as well.
I mean, just tactically there, they're obviously looking as well to protect the centre of the pitch. So that has another concept in terms of what the players do and what their roles and responsibilities are. So you'll see all the way through this that they're always looking to protect the centre of the pitch, as opposed to, and if they do let them inside, it's for a reason, So yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, he's closing down here directly. The transition again to now close down the goalkeeper. So it's the speed at which he goes. Now it's the speed at which he decelerates and comes back to press again. Here, ready to change. And now it's caused a real problem. Now you see the wide man in line pretty much with the fullback, but closing down the centre back, who's forced under pressure, to clear maybe on his wrong foot. And now they're ready to wing. Now just watch that again. And you watch as it gets cleared. If you watch Minamito now, watch his head as the ball's coming. He has a little glance now to see where the ball might come to next as well. Again, on this occasion, this is more, they've been quite cagey here. It's Liverpool against Man City. They've got 3 forwards up here. We're ready to sort of press, but they're all looking to get in line with players behind them. So you can see, I think it's Origi here is in line here. He's got his player, the defender, centre back to look at, but also in line with the full back. They're saying basically, if you play it over us, it's going to go in the air, give us more time from midfield to go over and press. But they're quite cagey. So the one we'll concentrate here on more in the middle is Firmino again, and he's deciding whether to press or not. And he's also cutting off that pass behind. He's sort of enticing the pass, or in the end, forcing a long kick to where City have the man advantage at the back.
Paul, you also mentioned, you touched on the front, the midfield 3. They're all doing a job and a half, aren't they? They're sort of covering the space. Also, so their position, they're quite stretched. So they are doing, marking a man, but also marking the space at the same time.
That's right. And all the midfield players have sort of got a man in front of them, they're marking, but ready, the 2 wider midfield players ready to go out to the fullbacks. So you can see within all these situations, if you draw that circle around them, where are they going so that they can help and do 2 jobs until it's very clear which one they're going to go and do. Yeah. And here now you look at Firmino. He's ready to press, but they're just waiting, really. He's not going on a full press where they can play around them. And even here now, he's just in line with the centre midfield player, having a look, checking where he is, ready to go forward. And again, here they've not committed themselves, which ends up with a long ball forward eventually. Again, he's in line with the midfield player, just dropping off. So it's whether he commits or not. They're waiting for the right cues, really. Okay, this clip, I think here it starts with looks like Reading have had the ball, tried to play it out wide to the right, and it's intercepted. The first thing to note is the speed in which the midfield players, the 3 forwards really go to press. speed at which they get behind the ball. So quickly here, back behind there, quickly close here, get back behind to force the ball backwards. And so now you see the direction of the press, really. So if that was in a quadrant round, now the 9 has gone past the centre half to force the ball wide. The number 4 has jumped up, the midfield player, to press over, and the other midfield player now is coming in a position where they can both mark the girl in front of her, but also be ready to cut out a passing lane on the left at the bottom of the screen here. So again, they can read the cues, and the centre half comes in and is able to read the cues and win the tackle. Again, as the play goes on. Now you see all the players being forced down this one way. The midfield players stopping any ball inside. If you've seen, it was tight in the quadrant. Now that the left back for Reading has now gone tight, maybe a little bit too tight, because it means that there's opportunity for a run behind. But you see how quickly she turns her hips, ready to turn and face forward. But also then you have coming from behind to win the ball back is the centre half, really, from Reading, as it here comes into the picture. We see the turn and run behind from the
That's an example of anticipation there, Paul, isn't it? That she's anticipating that, and she's just got herself positioned accordingly to deal with the danger.
Yeah, I think so. And you see how quick you have to transition, go from one place to the next. Here, the movement skills, and obviously scanning over her shoulder to have a little look, ready to read it. So that's anticipation, coming in, reading the cues. Again, reaction, look at the midfield player, really tight here, ready to go tight. And now the fullback's got to turn and run, and then there's the anticipation again. So all working to force the play down this side of the pitch, yeah.
Protecting the centre of the pitch, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, this is Man City, where ball comes out to Walker, the ball bounces off him, they give it away, and then you'll see the speed of the reaction from Bernardo Silva to sprint to close down the defender. And again, Rodri then comes into position. Again, coming over, you can see in the top left-hand corner now. Ball given away now immediately here, the instant press. You see De Bruyne also goes to press at first, but then sees Bernardo Silva's going, and he drops into a position to stop the forward pass there. And then coming from the left-hand side now, coming in, reading the cues, so scanning his position from behind, and now tight Rodri.
Paul, how important then do you think, obviously with Man City, they've preparing the team to make sure your distances are right. So even when you've got possession, you're in a position that, you know, your distances are right, that if you do lose possession, that you can apply pressure early. How important is that, do you think? You know, and how much work done on that balance when you're moving forward down the pitch, but making sure your distances are right, that you have got that cover and support. So if it is lost, the first player can go, but then you've got 2 or 3 players around you that can support you at the same time.
Yeah, and I think that's very much an awareness and a game savvy. That's that sort of game cunning as well. The position play, having players close together, but then it's the idea that they're already anticipating, well, what if we lose the ball here? You know, they're always in that thing, what if we lose it? We can't always all be in the attack. So what happens if we lose the ball? So that transition, a lot of people see it as 4 different things. To me, you can be in the attack, but you could be 80% in the attack and 20% defending, or the defenders behind here. When City are in the ball, I would say the defenders are pretty much 95% defending, even though their team's got the ball. You know, they're ready to get back. So again, here we see Rodri. If it's in this quadrant, he's come behind, but he's not so tight that he could give a foul away, or that if he could get rolled, but if the Liverpool player takes a touch to the side, he's close enough to get a toe in, or even to get his body between and dispossess, like we saw Sterling do. So that'd be ideal defending. He's forcing the play back, which now that allows Bernardo Silva again to start pressing. It starts his lines are forced to go forward, and again De Bruyne starts to go forward to maybe cut off Henderson. Yeah. And then when the ball's played past them, as we said before, what do? You have to sprint back, because now you've got to sprint back goal side. You might get the knockdown, or as you see with if we follow Rodri, he then gets back into here from this position here. Watch him sprint back now, and he gets back into position in front of the back four in case there's a problem.
So still ensuring that balance, even
as they're all moving back to get close and in around the ball. Okay. Yeah, I think in this clip here, although the 7, 9, and 11 are highlighted, they're not really playing as a normal front three. It looks here as if Liverpool play with a front two and a withdrawn forward or a diamond in midfield. So it's the 10, and over there on the 9, and the number 8 who is in between. So the 10 and the 9 have that job again, 2 jobs of marking in case the ball goes to the centre back, but also in line with the fullback, the 2 or the 5 over the other side. And they're doing 2 jobs, but also looking around them to see if they can pinch the ball in midfield. But the 8 has quite a few jobs. He's looking after the number 6 predominantly. But if the ball gets played wide and over and the 7 jumps, then he goes over to cover and pick up his man and then works his way back into the front. So we'll see that as it happens now, in this clip. Just talk through it. So see now in between the 10, he is stopping the ball out to the fullback, but also marking. So is there. The ball goes long over. So now 7 goes over, and you've got the 8 comes over to take his man, but also the 9 who's up here in the top part is able to, as it comes in here, see now. And the 8 now cuts off the forward pass, ready to come over tight with a 9. Reads that the 2's there as well. Closes down, checks around, and again now is able to anticipate and you win the ball back and get a shot at goal. Yeah. And again, he is good to look. He takes over the different player here, and you see the 9's cut off that pass. So again, look at the 9. He is looking to cut off the pass inside. 10 again, looking to get in line. He just pauses here a little bit to stop that pass through the 8. Now,
so
check.
Question.
Yeah.
Question here. Just if you just pause that, and again, I think links back to practice design. How important is it then that we actually practice in these distances? Because if you look at the actual distances they've got to cover, the players, the front players, how important do you think that is in terms of preparing the players appropriately? Because quite often we see pressing practices in very small spaces, but we're seeing it here that we're covering the full width of the pitch. So players have got, if we're going to prepare players, they've got to prepare appropriately.
Yeah, I think so. But also, the bigger spaces also, I think it gives you a little bit more time. There's time to deal with things, and maybe it gives a clearer picture, than if you're in a really tight area. Which one's mine? I got to. So yeah, you're looking at certain key principles that you're looking for, and all of them pretty much those considerations will be there. Is it my man? Should I press? Should I be stopping a passing line? Am I ready to jump up and take somebody else's man if they push over? Am I ready for the ball that goes behind me to cover or to back tackle? Am I always looking for where's the next place to play? Can I play forward if I intercept, or can I get it away from the tackle area, back or square, if we win the ball? And all those things are constantly happening. And you've got to get the players used to those jobs. Clearest one is obviously, it's clear if they, how do I mark? Yeah, I've got a man to mark. But then they start to leave the passing lane. So they say, well, hang on, you need to do two jobs. So now you've got to gauge it. And you've got to give them a situation where that's going to occur, yeah. So he's here, look, reading the body language of the goalkeeper here, ready to read it. So he's read that easily. So all of those little things would come in. He's got a good position. He's scanned. His movement's quick to get over. He's really deceptive. Maybe they didn't know he was coming. And, of course, the timing, he's got there quickly. And the technique to get a toe in and win it back, definitely.
Yeah, brilliant. That's fantastic. Obviously, we're on the sort of last slide now in terms of the summary. So hopefully you guys at home watching this have taken a lot from it and linked this into your practice and the tasks we're asking you to do within the high press block. Just a reminder, really, that continue to study what the top players do, and transfer that into developing your own observations and looking at the detail, but then what that means to your own players in your own context. Continue to use the quadrant tool to help you develop and fine tune your observational skills, and develop that lens that you can look at different things with probably a little bit more detail. And think about how this is going to help you with your planning, your delivering and reviewing of your sessions. So working in small numbers, but also maybe working in big numbers. The consequences of that and what that looks like. Paul, anything to add on that in terms of just final thoughts from you in terms of for the learners?
Yeah, no, it's just a case of like observing the top games, rewind it, go back, have a little look. How did he do that? What was his body position like, or hers? You see those clips in the frame when you see it and just live. How did he do that, Sterling? But when you see each clip, you see there's a real technique to it. So it's about breaking things down like that as well. Which foot do you challenge with? Do you go in with your right foot, to challenge, or your left, outside of the foot, etc. And by continually studying, rewinding, looking back again, and then you're getting those in. And then, like you say, they'll come up in practices. Then you can devise practices where they'll come up a lot.
Yeah, I just reiterate really what I said a minute ago about that realism in the practice as well. We saw that Liverpool pressing. There was 4 versus 6 at one stage. Full width of the pitch. So how much do we work on that in terms of the realistic distances the players have got to work in, as opposed to trying to make it smaller and make it easier for the players, so you get more success. So have a think about that. So obviously when you're watching this and watching what the top teams do and what top players do, also look at the areas of the pitch that it happens in, and that should hopefully help you in terms of your planning and delivering of your practices as well and your design.
Just the other thing with that, Bishop, is you must know that games, constantly moving. So all of these decisions have to be positional decisions, decisions to press, to drop off, to cover. All these things are happening, constantly within the game. So then it's important that they're allowed to practice them in that way as well. It's not just stop-start, because a lot of it is down to, constantly working, doing the right things, so that eventually maybe the team, that they try a pass they shouldn't because you've been blocking them off for that long, or you force them into an unforced error, or you make them play long because it takes time to keep blocking it off, being patient, doing the right things constantly. So it is a thing of, they have to spend enough time doing it as well. You have to earn the right to win the ball back by doing all the right things.
Brilliant. Paul, thanks for your time. I really enjoyed that. Thank you for everyone at home. Thanks for Matt behind the scenes as well, helping us through this. And we both look forward to seeing you over the next coming weeks.